sewing machine that I got has a very bad smell inside. So even with the cover on, it just has this, it's difficult to describe the smell, something old. And that's because all the old oil that was on inside the mechanism starts smelling after many years, and it's a very strong smell and it's very persistent. Even if you oil the mechanism, it will just stay there. So my trick, I'm going just to spray a bottle, and I want to warn you before doing this. When you do what I'm going to show in this video, you need to oil everything back together. So it's very important, not just a simple oiling, really oil all junctions, everything, every single part of metal that rotates against another metal part. So it's not the regular oiling that I'm talking about. I'm going to use alcohol 99%. And you notice it says isopropyl alcohol, because you should not use friction alcohol. So let's just put it in English. So do not use 70%, because 70% has 30% water. And if you put water in there, it will stay and it will cause parts to rust in between the parts. So you will have a lot of problem, a lot of moving parts problem, even if the water evaporates later on. So I did put 99% full alcohol in this bottle, and what I'm going to do is very basic. I'm going just to spray over it. Let's see if the camera will focus properly. I'm just going to open the cover at the top and just going to really spray the mechanism. Now this machine has a belt, so do not spray at the belt area. If you have plastic parts, don't spray on them. Also locate, maybe there is more than one belt, so do not spray on rubber, anything that has to be rubber. And my advice is to spray on the metal parts, but also on the case. So inside the case, all those walls got oil on them, and that oil must be removed in some way. So this is my way to do it. I'm not obviously going to show you all the process in the video. There are many parts that need to be sprayed like this. And also I'm going to flip the machine and spray underneath. You have the mechanism all inside underneath, perhaps inside here if I can reach. I think plastic buttons should be safe, stainless steel should be safe, but just not on rubber parts. So I'm going just to spray like this and just let the alcohol evaporate, and hopefully this will just dissolve the oil and make that smell, the old oil, make that smell go away. But again, the same warning as in the beginning of the video, you really need to get a bottle of sewing machine oil and just go remove all covers, the top, underneath, everywhere you can reach, and really lubricate every single part. There is a gazillion parts, there's a gazillion contact points that need re-lubricated, including shaft worm gear, which are oftentimes very difficult to access, the shaft brackets also. So it's not the regular maintenance, it really needs to redo everything. If you are not ready to re-lubricate everything, and by the way, some like the shaft worm gear or like gears like this need grease, a light grease, not oil. Oil is for small pivots. So if you are not ready to lubricate everything like this, don't do this alcohol spraying, because you may get into problems. So be aware of this, I'm just warning you. But this should just take away that smell, which is very persistent, and I don't feel, if you even if you ventilate the room when you work on it with the machine, it's just persistent. That smell is too much for me. So I go to this extreme to try to get rid of it. And notice I'm only squeezing the least amount of alcohol. Really, I'm not squeezing a lot. It's really just small squeezes. Better not squeeze inside here, because there is no axis there, so better don't go there, so you won't be able to lubricate afterwards. And again, also spray the case. The case also is quite important. And that's it. I'm just not doing more than this. Let it sit, and hopefully it's going to take away the smell. If it doesn't, or if it's not enough, simply just repeat, spray it again after the alcohol has evaporated, spray it again. And by the way, try to do this in a room that is well ventilated. Do not breathe these vapors of alcohol. Is not really good for your health. An update about the results. So the smell is maybe 80% gone. I will compare it this way. When I first got the machine, the smell was so strong. I will perhaps sit like 10 feet away from the machine and I could not stand the smell. Right now I'm sitting by the machine, and even if I would approach, there is still smell if you put your nose right in there, but it's nowhere near the original smell. So also when you put the cover back in place, I think the smell will be absolutely gone, and you can sit by the machine and sew in all tranquility. Before that, I could not even stay near the machine. So it's a big improvement. It's really more than enough an improvement. Now I have a few warnings for you. And by the way, keep in mind that the oil that was put on the base elements by the previous owner will also leak at the bottom of this case. So you need to put spray alcohol also inside this case at the bottom of the plastic case. That's also an area to clean. Now, when you spray, I must say that I did spray like this 3 times over 3 days and let it dry and spray it again the next day. And I had to concentrate more spray on this area because I think people pour more often time oil on this area here. And again, you also need to spray the case at the bottom, especially at the bottom. So not just the mechanism, but the case as well, the bottom of the case here inside. Now I want to mention one warning. You see, these holes here are for lubricating the stock. So when you finish with alcohol, leave it a few days like this open, maybe also flip the machine to expose the bottom, because you also need to spray the bottom, but to expose the alcohol so it evaporates faster. But give it a few days. You absolutely need to have the alcohol completely evaporate before you start oiling all pivots. And I will link you a video about this oiling, because there are like at least 50-60 pivots, so oiling points in these machines. If I would move this component here, look how many parts are moving at the same time. So there's at least 5-6 pivots moving at this moment. All these screws that rotate around, you need to put a droplet on the top of the screw or maybe around the screw, and that droplet of oil will just leak and lubricate all the pivots. But that's a big job also. If you see these holes, 1-2 droplets inside the hole on the shaft as well. Now my warning is, when you spray that alcohol thing, it's better not to let it go inside these deep holes, especially the ones for the shaft here. And also if you look underneath the machine, like to open the case, there is also lubricating holes on the shafts, and also sometimes on these rods as well. Let's see, that hole is a lubrication hole, so there is, depends on the model obviously, but when you leak alcohol in there, it will stay like a column of alcohol in those holes, and that alcohol takes very long time to dry. So it's better perhaps to just cover these holes when you spray alcohol on the machine, so you don't fill them with alcohol. Or if you happen to fill them, maybe use a Q-tip to dip it inside to remove the excess alcohol, because it will take too long time, several days, to evaporate, and you don't want alcohol before you oil the machine. So it's very important not to mix alcohol inside these holes with the oil, because it will absolutely destroy any oil, so you will not have proper lubrication on these areas. Also again underneath the machine, so be careful with these holes for lubrication. Otherwise it's absolutely the result, it's absolutely amazing for me. I can tell you just very honestly, if the machine will smell like it was smelling before. And despite the fact that I like the machine, I could not sit by the side of the machine to operate, to sew. It was just too much for me. I'm not too sensitive. My smell is not that sensitive, but the smell was just gross and not pleasant. Right now, it's absolutely perfectly acceptable. So it's something, an absolute critical or essential fix, if you want, at least from my point of view. Thanks much.